Welcome to the 2011 Nebula Awards, the one time of year when we all gather to honor the very best contemporary work of our peers.
I'm here with Michael Swanwick, the Toastmaster of this year's Nebula Awards, and this is your first time Toastmastering?
This was my absolute first time. I was extremely nervous going in. Luckily, all the people doing the introductions were brilliant, and Michael Durda was quite wonderful with his speech, so they all made me look good.
Were there any particular apprehensions you had?
I spent a month worrying about this beforehand. This is my first time as Toastmaster, so I did ask for advice. I went to my friend Tom Purdom, who has been a member of SIFWA from its inception. And I asked him what I should do, and he said, the very first Nebula banquet, we had Isaac Asimov for the Toastmaster, and it was very clear that he was simply ad-libbing it. He was making up as he went along, but he was hilarious. He had us in stitches. Thank you, Tom. I called up Connie Willis, and she said, "Oh, you'll do fine, Michael." He said, "Just, be sure to have a lot of shtick ahead of time." And I went, "I don't have any shtick. I don't have any jokes at all." And the time kept getting closer and closer. And I went, "Okay, I'm up to one joke, and I've got 4 days to go." But desperation gives you wit, I suppose.
The nebulas are a big one.
They are an enormous one.
You have one yourself?
I have one myself, and I have the Nebula for Best Novel for Stations of the Tide in 1990, which shows you just how seriously what a big deal it is that I have that right on the tip of my tongue.
You also have some Hugo Awards. You have the Theodore Sturgeon Award.
I have those, and I have the World Fantasy Award, too.
Are awards still important to you?
The best thing anybody ever said to me about awards was after I won the Nebula, William Gibson called me up, and he burbled happily at me long distance from British Vancouver. That was before the time of cheap cell phone deals. And so he was paying a bundle for this call. And it was really very, very kind of him because he was a friend, but he wasn't so close a friend I'd have noticed if he hadn't done this. And he called me up and he was very happy at me. He said the most useful thing I ever heard about awards. He said, "Michael, now that you have a Nebula, you need never want one again. The little tag Nebula Award winner follows you around like a puppy for the rest of your life. They can't take it away from you for bad behavior, and winning 10 more is not going to make it any larger." It really struck me this year. It was a year I wasn't up for anything, and looking at the ballot going, this is a nice, strong ballot. These are good books. These are really good stories. The field doesn't need me to have a really splendid year.
You once wrote, quite some time ago, I believe, and I'm paraphrasing here, every generation raises its own horde of barbarians.
That's true.
Correct? And this is probably back when you were one of those barbarians.
I was there baying at the gates. We'd get together with my friends and we would plot the downfall of all that was decent in science fiction.
What do you think about the latest crop of barbarians?
I'm not privy to their inner workings. I know that there's an incredible number of really first-rate writers out there right now, and a lot more coming up all the time. In 1980, if you'd asked me to make a list of the 10 or 20 best short story writers, I could have done it. It would have taken me a good 10 minutes hard thought, but I could have done it. Today, it's not possible. There are just so many really, really top-notch writers around.
When so many technological advancements seem almost like miracles and so much seems so open to us and possible, what is that like for you as a science fiction writer when you're speculating about mankind's future?
Well, personally, as far as technology impinges on me personally, not a lot. A writer is like a craftsman. I could do my work with damp mud and a stick, really. As far as the science goes, this is just a wonderful time to be alive, to be a fan of science, to marvel at everything that's going on. I just wish I could have 1,000 years to more life so I could see how a lot of this comes out. You look back at the early science fiction writers, you realize that they had to be visionaries, and literally visionaries, had to see things that nobody else could see. And nowadays, there's a lot of people writing science fiction. There's a lot of people writing good science fiction and competent science fiction. But if you want to make a mark the way that somebody like A. Van Vogt did, or Isaac Asimov, or Robert Heinlein, you've got to be a visionary again, and you've got to see things that nobody else is seeing. That's very hard work, and you can't tell who's doing it until it's already been done. So really, we're engaged in basically the same enterprise, except we've got a different set of rules. You know, Robert Heinlein wrote a book, The Door into Summer, and it has got something like a dozen speculations that are spot on. You know, he called Ticketron, and he called the metal detectors in airports, and a dozen other things, computer-assisted design, described in detail. And it's all spot on, and to read those pages now is very boring. I know how Ticketron works, and that's a half page I'll never have again. But Murray Leinster, on the other hand, wrote a book that didn't come true, where a scientist invents a device that puts matter out of phase with matter, so you can slide through the empty spaces. And using this, you could walk through a wall. And some criminals steal this and put it into a submarine, and they just put it out of phase, 99% out of phase, and except for the propellers, and they go sailing underground and surface in bank vaults and shovel the money in and take the submarine down again. And it's nonsense, but man, it's still entertaining. And ironically enough, some of the stuff that's the most entertaining is the least successful as prophecy, and the things that are the best predictions are the least entertaining after they come true.
And it's still fun for you?
Oh, it's enormous fun.
What have you got coming out soon?
As of 2 days ago, Dancing with Bears, and this is, I have a series, I have 2 series characters, my only ever, Darger and Surplus. Darger is a gray, faceless man. Surplus is a genetically modified dog. He walks like a human being. He has a human intellect, but he's still identifiably a dog. And the two are post-utopian con men. And in their first adventure in the Dog Said Bow Wow, a short story, they accidentally burned down London, and they set off for Moscow. Since then, they've been wandering about, and I said, well, if they ever reach Moscow, they will need that'll be an adventure that needs a novel. And when I finished my last novel, I said, they reach Moscow. And since I'd only been in Moscow 4 hours in my entire life, I had to go back. I spent a couple of weeks there. I got not enough time to really know it, but enough time that I could feel comfortable getting lost in the city. And so this is, the novel is, I guess, what Graham Greene would call an entertainment. The main purpose of it is just to be lots and lots and lots of fun. And I certainly hope it is. My wife, who is the hardest one to convince of this, agrees that it does have a happy ending. And finally, and most important announcement of the evening, the bar is open.